watching on Facebook. Hey, what's up, dudes? Johnny Beane here. This is exclusively Van Halen, the Van Halen Show, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch. Hey, if you like your Van Halen, smash or push that subscribe button. And hey, push that thumbs up button. It's very easy to do. And let me just let some of our Facebook friends into the thing here. Okay, here we go. All right, we're going to talk with Steve Rosen. We're going to talk about ToneChaser, the book, in its third printing. Incredible. So we're going to have a great time tonight. So hey, join us in the live chat. Oh, by the way, we've got a special giveaway for you guys tonight as well. So let's do this. This is exclusively Van Halen for January 16, 2024. 8:09 p.m. Eastern, 5:09 Pacific. Here we go.
Hey, this is Michael Anthony right here, and you are watching exclusively Van Halen on the Johnny Beane TV. Keep it there. Woo! See ya!
Hey, what's up, dudes? Whoa, Steve Rosen.
Johnny Beane.
Hey, man. It's great to see you.
I'm ready. Great to see you, man. For a long time.
Thank you, man. Thank you for signing this just now, man. For the magic of the internet.
And bootlegging Zloz's signature too, man.
Yeah, we got Neil Zlozauer's signature, Steve Rosen's signature. You guys, it was, dude, can you believe it was a year ago?
A year ago, you're right. Almost to the day.
This. January 9th.
Was
yeah,
it?
little over a year ago. We were hanging out at Book Soup, and you did some readings from your book, ToneChaser. Remember that?
I do, man. And isn't that amazing? It was the first edition just a year ago.
Yeah.
And now we're on the going into the third edition. And I also remember you driving like all over creation to get there on the rainiest day that California's ever seen, of course. And that was nice of you to do that, man. That meant a lot. So.
Oh, we had a great time. So
it was fun, man.
So for tonight's giveaway, you guys, you can win. This is a promo card from the Steve Rosen Book Soup ToneChaser event, and it's signed by Steve with a very exclusive signature. You signed a few of these for me, and I remember you signed each of them a little differently. You remember telling me that?
I do, and I'll tell you, my approach to signature writing is that everyone should be unique. Everyone is a work of art, and anybody who signs their signature the same way twice, don't talk to me. So yes, so you're going to see
me.
You're going to make it
out there. The signature's all just slightly different, but yes, I work on my signature.
You're going to make the guys at Pawn Stars angry when they call an expert in to verify the signature. It's like, well, it's not like this one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you guys participate in the live chat tonight, and towards the end of the show, we do a special giveaway where we do giveaways. So tonight, up for grabs is the Steve Rosen Book Soup card with Steve Rosen unique signature and Neil Zlozauer signature, and bookmark. We'll give one of those away too.
There you go.
And those don't exist anywhere, man. You got the last one. I have none.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they are rare.
Look at that. You got John 5.
John 5.
You got Paul Gilbert.
Paul Gilbert.
You got Satriani.
Joe Satriani.
Bumblefoot.
Bumblefoot.
Damian Johnson.
Damian Johnson. Damian was in He's actually now in the Skinner.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, great guitar player.
Yeah, right on. So, you guys, welcome. And again, if you like Van Halen, if this is your first time here, this is the Van Halen show here on Johnny Beane YouTube, Twitch, Facebook pages. And before we start, let's say hello to the top tier of channel members here on Johnny Beane YouTube station. Channel membership, it's a great way to help support the channel and support these shows, because we do shows almost every day. Actually, if you look at the schedule for this week, you'll see shows for I think the rest of the week going into next week. Top tier are the executive producers of channel membership, and they are currently Sherman Callahan, Michael B. Live, CC, Nova 9, Michael Smith, Music Therapy, Laz, R. Habs, Warlag, Patty Dill, Fairfield Guitar Co., Majestic PB and J Cat, Guitarman 45, and Janice Lala. That's the top tier of channel members. If you'd like to become a channel member, click that join button below. If you'd like to help support in other ways, Super Chats is a way you can help support the channel and support these shows. And the cool thing about on this channel is they change the color of my lights. And if you're wondering what that means, this is called the Guitar Moire. These lights magically change with any Super Chats, any support for the channel for these shows. So we're live here on YouTube. We're looking to get to 12K YouTube subscribers. Thank you. We're also live on Facebook, Johnny Beane personal page, where we got Facebook stars you can help support with Facebook stars. We're also live in the exclusively Van Halen group at 62,000 members, EVH Gear Fans Live group, EVH Gear Fans Live page, Johnny Beane TV group. And this is also a podcast on iHeart, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to this show. And you can actually watch this show on Spotify. Steve, did you know Spotify has video now?
I had no idea.
It's pretty cool.
That's unbelievable.
It's real good quality too.
Huh.
Very good quality. Yeah, real good quality.
It's actually better than this. Believe it or not.
Wow.
So eventually we're gonna be live on Spotify, I think.
That's great. That's unbelievable.
Yeah. So, Steve, man, I can't believe it's been well, technically it's been less than a year since I saw you last, because the last NAMM show wasn't quite a year ago.
That's true.
It was like April, I
think so.
Something like that, and we were walking around. Your brother, my friend Laz, was with us.
That's right.
Remember, we were like climbing stairs. We were just all over all the different tunnels of NAMM. It was quite an adventure, and I'm looking forward to our adventures next week.
Next week, yeah.
NAMM show.
Is that next week or 2 weeks?
Coming up. Yeah,
next week.
24th. I'll be there the 24th.
That's right. That's right.
Next Wednesday, I think. Wednesday.
You're going to be there for 5 days, you glutton for punishment. No, it's going to be fun. You know, Wednesday's the media day, and we should tell everybody that you've been invited to participate this year as a contributor. Your profile has been on the rise, man, and the NAMM people recognize, what you give back to the community, man, and rightly so. And they've invited you to participate, which is freaking excellent, man. You deserve it for sure.
The one time Cheech isn't here. They needed to hear that.
Oh my God. Yeah, we had a troll last week. Do you have trolls?
Trolls.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, he needed to hear all that. Maybe he'll catch it on the replay.
Yeah. Well, we just got a retweet from ELVH5150 on X. So we're getting the word out there, Steve.
That's amazing. As I've told you before 1,000 times, everybody out here, I don't have a clue how StreamYard works. I don't know how I'm looking at you. I don't know what Zoom is. I can barely use a freaking telephone. Makes me insane. I'm going to go back to rotary dials. Computers on my desk, friend, but thank goodness there are people like you who can maneuver me through this. And when Facebook wanted to say, hey, you can't do that or something, and they locked me out, I mean, how many times did I come screaming Johnny, help me, Johnny, help me. And you hung in there and you helped me, man. And God,
Yeah.
it's so anybody who can navigate this stuff, man, and you know, make use of it and use it as a tool. I mean, my hat's off, man, because I don't get
Thank you,
it.
man. I mean, I don't like to brag, Cheech, but I helped you with your Facebook page.
You did?
Your ToneChaser Facebook page we made and uploaded stuff to it. And
I had posted something, or they didn't like it, and you're locked out, you know. And then I tried to write them back, and I couldn't do it. And you figured out how we had to, you know, crawl through the ivy and over the fences and do everything else. And
yeah,
there it was. To this day, I still wouldn't have a Facebook page, probably. Still be trying to figure it out, you know. I'd be writing letters in pencil and mailing them, you know. So, oh man,
with a different signature each time. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, yeah. So NAMM was the last time we ran into each other, and we had to go on a scavenger hunt looking for Chris Canella from ESP. No, who was Chris?
Deane. Deane. It was the Deane.
And, you know,
it was the room up the stairs. The
exactly.
You guys have no idea about this, but it was like it's something. Eventually, it'll be in a book. I think Steve, you'll write a book about everything, and that will definitely be in the book.
That was unbelievable, man. That was literally. I mean, that was Spinal Tap, right? It was, let's go to this hub. No, it's not here. And we're looking at Siri, or, you know, we're looking at thing, and they're saying, it's right there 50 feet in front of you, right? Like Alien. It's right in front of you, you idiot. And we're walking, it's not there, you know. And tiny steps, man. In this little room locked away in the back. There's Chris and his, you know, tattooed buddies talking guitars.
Yeah, it was a meeting. And you know what was funny about that is like what I was just saying. Well, before we went on the air here, I was telling Ron, like when Ron first jumped in the call, I'm like, well, hey, if you read those guitar magazines in the 80s, you definitely read Steve Rosen's interviews, his articles. And like that escapade, that thing we had a week last year at NAMM, that was right out of one of your interviews.
Yeah.
It was like I lived it. Because you would put in your book, you know, you and Edward would go and you'd jump in the car, you'd drive here, drive there, you know, all this stuff. And it was very similar to us at NAMM last year, going up the stairs, the fire escape, you know, finding, you know, the room or whatever. It's the same. I mean, it's just another day in the life of Steve Rosen. You know?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
And it was cool.
On top of that, I have the worst directions of any person who's ever lived. So that doesn't help matters. You know.
Yeah. And your brother was with us? Your brother was with us? Yeah.
Mick, who is I've made famous by name checking him in the book. And Mick, who has an uncanny sense of direction. Even he got turned around looking for the Deane room. But yeah, that definitely would have been in a book somewhere. That would have been in the story. Looking for Deane guitars.
Yeah, that was crazy. So anyway, I'm looking forward to next week because we're definitely going to meet up. We're going to hang out, and who knows, we'll make some new history, you know. And like I said, you know, I'll be there. You know, NAMM invited me. They actually invited me this year. I didn't have to sneak in, you know, the back door. You know.
Be right back.
So definitely looking forward to hooking up and hanging out and, you know, just all the classic NAMM stuff. Because I know a lot of people that have gone for years, like, and you're probably one of them. Like, how many times have you been to a NAMM show?
You know, if I ran into the other room, I could actually count the little passes I have, but I'm sure that I'm missing some. So I started going back, you know, when I was, you know, still writing for Guitar Player. So I think I've gone to NAMM as far back probably as 74, 75. It's one of the first years. So I'd say, I don't know, man, 20 times. I've been a fair amount. You know, and you know, back in the day, we always say back in the day, but it was amazing, really amazing back in the day. You know, I mean, everybody was there, and as many people as you know will show up next week. I mean, I hope it approximates kind of you know what it was like back in the day. I mean, it was to the point where you couldn't walk 2 feet. You know, you'd have to you know walk around people, and every conceivable guitar maker and amp guy and drum manufacturer men were there, and you know all the artists, they were there, man. They wanted to be there. That was a good hustle for those guys, you know, hanging out at the Fender booth and you know signing autographs. And I mean, there were some heavy people there back in the day, and I'm hoping you know a lot of those people will show up this year, and I think they will. But yeah, it's fun, man. It is fun. I mean, it's just kind of heartening to see that in this world that we live in today, that there's still people, you know, who want to buy the guitar and learn the guitar. And there's guys who want to, you know, play drums. And there are guys in bands who are still touring. I'm not talking about huge bands, but, you know, guys who are, you know, there to check out some new gear and, you know, for their next tour, you know, their bus tour. I mean, I think that's amazing, you know. I mean, you know, rock will never die, but it's just so glad to see that it's still alive. You know, when you see at the NAMM show, you see all those people out there, you know, buying stuff and ordering stuff for their shops, and that retail is still a viable thing, and that people still go into stores, hopefully, and shop. And so, yeah, man, it's cool. It's a positive thing. I mean, I love the energy of it too. So very cool.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna get back to how it was, because the past couple years, it's definitely been different. I mean, we've had a lot of leg room, like it's not nearly as crowded like it was. But I think coming back to January, you know, this year, I think it'll kind of get back to how it was. But still, it's moving in newer directions, which I think some people don't understand. You know, with the internet. Yeah. With just the whole way it is now. Because I was just at a convention in Las Vegas a few months ago called TwitchCon, and that's all about, you know, technology and you know all that stuff. And I think the NAMM show is going to move, you know, more in that direction.
I agree. So, I agree. And as much as I don't understand any of it, I totally get it. Yeah, man. You know, the internet and all that long distance, you know, recording and the technology, and yeah, it is absolutely going there, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you know, for me, the computer. So I was really late to the game, because I always thought, you know, if I ever stop using my electric typewriter, I'm never going to be able to write another article. I believe that. I go, all the juju is in my typewriter, man. And my brother, who was working for a computer company at the time, he says, you're a moron if you don't get a computer. So finally I got one, and you know, it took a little bit of getting used to, you know, but when I got my Word doc format, you know, and I do the same thing every time, yeah, it became an invaluable tool, you know, for writing stories for somebody like me. I can now go check on the spelling of somebody's names. Guys mention some person or a company that I'm not quite sure of, you know. Ultimately, I can go Google it. I can find that out, you know. There's 1,000 resources for, you know, finding out what I need to find out about Jimmy Page, you know. So, yeah, I mean, I get the upsides of it. The downsides for me is that it allowed everybody to become a musician, and that's a great thing. But on the bad side, it allowed everybody to become a musician. You know, back in the day when a record came out, a band was on a label, and you figured, well, they had to be pretty good, and not all of them, but I don't know, man. It gave everybody a license to be a musician, and I suppose in the end that's a good thing. And who am I to be the arbiter of taste? But the same thing with writers. Now anybody who's written 3 words has his own blog and you know, can write online. I suppose that's a good thing. You know, maybe it's the snob in me, or the fact that you work at something so long and now all of a sudden everybody is a critic, and you know, oh, that Rosen, I didn't like what he wrote, you know. So But
you get to read stuff you normally wouldn't have read. Some troll in their basement gets to say things about you, and it's right there. Like you Google your name, and there it is. So,
right, exactly. And that's a big mistake. Never read your own press, because there might be 99 positive ones, and one guy says, in fact, I just read one. It was, oh, why is the book so fucking long? You could have cut it in half. And I was just like, oh my gosh, should I have cut the book in half? So. But yeah.
Well, tell them to buy the book, and they can cut it in half.
Yeah.
And they can read one part now, one part later.
Exactly. I'll come out with the condensed version. I'll come out with the 300-word version, so you can read it in 10 minutes, right?
Man, I was reading. I was reading. I mean, I'll admit I can't read. I mean, that's one thing, but I still have yet to read the entire thing all the way through.
Wow.
But I've gone through, and I've seen some stuff in here that now I know as a Van Halen fan or nerd or whatever I am. So there's stuff in here that like wasn't published back in the day that I've learned since, but seeing it in here now is pretty cool. It like verifies some of the stuff.
Right. It's very interesting. So you have to understand that. Yeah. So when I'm writing about, Edward, asked him about the tapping thing. Nobody had ever asked Edward about tapping thing. What's tapping? And asking him about how he sets up his vibrato. Yeah. Now there's like 8 million sources for that. But yeah, back in the day, nobody knew. And, the guitars he was playing and, sort of the internal politics that you really didn't know about back in the day. Now you kind of know what his relationships were, with Dave and Michael. It does become sort of a touchstone in that way that, I knew all this stuff back then, but I couldn't write it because he said, no, don't print that, and I, never printed it, but, not that I knew anything, not that I was any great mental giant, but, I knew about that stuff, sort of back in the day and which is another reason, I really wanted to write the book. I did want to share that stuff with everybody, and I thought that people would, be enlightened by it or understand Edward more, by me writing that and writing a book that was even more personal, the Twilight tapes and, diving into who he was as a human being, and somebody described it as the book really humanizes Edward, which is what I really tried to do. So, absolutely.
And speaking of guitars, there's a photo that you posted today that I guess you said that Zeke Clark had sent to you.
Zeke sent me a few photos.
I mean, look at that. I was telling Steve how just amazing this photo is to somebody, some Van Halen dork like me, to see something like this. Because I can tell you for one thing, there's one guitar in there you never saw before. Rarely.
You can tell?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Oh my God, you really aren't you?
That guitar in the very middle. If you look at the bottom, you see a 1-9. You see the decals on it?
Yeah. Oh, is that
actually says 1986.
Oh my God.
Because I've seen that guitar before, but I've never seen this photo of it. So that's another thing. Like I was saying, this stuff, we grew up, on whatever we could get, your articles in the guitar magazines, whatever. But now with the internet, anytime something like that pops up, literally it's like, that's incredible,
That's cool, man. That's cool. Because when I'm doing these interviews and I'm hanging out with him back in the day, the last thing I ever think about is, I got to ask Ed about that guitar that's got the 1986 on it because, 40 years from now, people are going, you just don't think like that, right?
Yeah.
And things that I thought were incidental, people have picked out of the book. I love that stuff. He'll make some little comment about, I don't know, man, a pedal or doing something. And to me, it was something not even worth pursuing. It wasn't even worth asking a second question about. And, you and, all these other people out here in the chat room, for them, it's like this, hearing, God on the mountaintop kind of thing. You just don't think about that. And even, later when I was, doing the interviews, even for Guitar World, it was, you just have no sense of that, I mean, had I known what was going to be important to everybody, yeah, I would have lingered on those subjects, but who knew? It's unbelievable. That people just pick up on those little things. I mean, I love that stuff. Or some little chapter that it just talks to somebody, and for me, that's everything. That's just so great, It feels amazing.
Yeah.
We have a recurring question here in the chat, and people want to know if there's ever going to be any new Van Halen music release that Eddie may have already recorded and got done. Do you think that's ever going to happen?
Man, I wish I had a crystal ball for that. I suppose what I can't understand is that they could have brought in, they meaning the Van Halen estate, whoever's overseeing the library, the orchestra, they could have brought in, engineers or heavy duty people to kind of go through and just start, pulling the cool stuff and maybe the stuff that would, and I don't know if that's been done. Again, I'm not putting any words in anybody's mouth. Wolf has his own life. I don't know if Valerie would be involved in that at all. If Al is involved in that, Al's got his life. In answer to your question, Ron, I don't know. I can tell you that I never saw the vault with the 24-inch tapes or whatever Ed was using at the time. But I did see boxes and boxes of cassettes. Thousands of cassettes, boxes this high, filled with cassettes, his ideas, and you can just imagine, my God, what's on them.
Yeah.
And maybe, has all that stuff been dumped to, multi-tracks? Maybe it would be an extraordinarily long process. It could be done, but I don't know, man. Van Halen is one of the few bands at that level who don't have the definitive box set. And you explain to me why that is, right?
Yeah.
Kiss has a box set. Aerosmith, Jeff Beck. I don't get it. Back in '85, when I was going to write Edward's authorized biography, and I asked him, and I write about this in the book, Edward, listen, man, writers are going to be coming after you. They're going to want to write your life story. I'd like to be the one to do that, And he said, yes, be you, couldn't be anybody else. And that was, that touched me like I can't even tell you. So I start working on that book, and I started interviewing a lot of people. I got a lot of amazing interviews. A lot of those people have actually passed away since then. Some of them, I used some of those interviews in the back of the first edition, Van Halen's Voices. Kim Fowley and these people who were, really pretty deeply involved in the evolution of the band. So I kept working on those interviews, getting them together, and I'd ask Ed, fairly frequently, Ed, listen, man, I need to sit down with you and do more interviews with you, and not just the interviews that we've done for the Guitar Mags, Ed, but more about you, your personal life, and what was it like growing up in the Netherlands, and how did you get along with your mom and dad, and were you a popular kid, and why did you start smoking when you were 13 years old, and why did you start drinking so early, just all that stuff that no one had ever asked him. And he always said to me, well, now is not the right time. He said, if we do the book now, people are going to think my career's over, and he would say that to me, and he was deadly serious about it. I go, Ed, that's not the case. And I go, you're the only one who would ever think that way. It's just part of your legacy. It's who you are. My point being, I don't think Edward ever understood, or maybe he did, maybe it just didn't mean anything to him, his own legacy, his own legend, that a book, it's not important. It's not as important as putting out the next record.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only push and pull so long, and hound the guy to the point where he gets annoyed with it. But I think somehow that is translated, man, all these years. Somehow, I don't know if it was Warner's or management or somebody, because it wasn't specifically up to Edward. No, we don't have the time. We don't have the interest to put together a Van Halen box set. I don't get it. To me, it is, it's a black mark on their history. I think it's a shame. My God, you can just imagine what's there in the vaults. There must be a ton of live video stuff, outtakes. So yeah, Ron, and long answer to your short question, I don't know. I mean, it's been, so what is it? It's been over 3 years now since Edward passed. I don't know. Oh,
if they was to do a box set, can you imagine the diehard fans then? Is it just going to be a box set with Dave, or is it going to be a box set with Sam, or is it going to be a box set that's 50-50? I mean, no matter what, it's just going to branch off into this fight, and this fight.
You bring up a good point, man. I would bet money that it would certainly include Dave and Sammy, and I can't imagine that it wouldn't touch on Gary. But good, excellent point. Yeah, can you imagine them coming out with a box set of just Dave? Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, we'll see. I hope so. I hope it happens. I mean, I know everybody would love to hear it. It'd be amazing. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, just anything from any of those eras, anything unreleased. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that's been released, via the internet or bootleg tapes, demos. There's things here and there.
Yeah.
But like, I can't imagine, like, I'm sure you heard stuff back in the day. Like, I mean, we've heard the tapes where Edward would play you, the songs, like, let's say the album that you're there to interview him for, he would play you the stuff, but I'm sure he probably played you stuff, little ideas, or even on the guitar.
Yeah, positively. Yeah, I was so lucky to capture that on tape. And what he brought me were unmixed. I'm pretty positive they were unmixed. So, I mean, there might be 10 different mixes of the second record, or different mixes of some of the songs, or an edit here and there, that I know that all you Van Halen guys and everybody would love hearing. I mean, it's amazing to hear that stuff, how he would hear something and tweak something. And I'm sure I heard some of that stuff that would ultimately end up in the vault. Honestly, I wish I could remember more of what I heard, but maybe someday.
Yeah. The one thing though that makes me think that they wouldn't release anything eventually is because Edward had always said if something wasn't finished, he didn't want it out there. So I think even if there is stuff, if it wasn't finished, or if it's something where he wasn't happy about it, I can't see them putting it out eventually, but who knows?
That could be. So when Edward says finish, is he talking about a mixed track, or is he talking about his idea? This is, the verse, the pre-chorus and the chorus, and the instrumental section is done. I think that's really more what he meant. I don't think he's talking about, finished engineered tracks. But I mean, there may be even I mean, there might be a fair amount of that. Ed would go in there and maybe he'd have, Alex just tracking drums. Maybe they just do something live. And then Ed would go back and play bass. So, I mean, I would imagine there's probably a fair amount of that stuff. And now it's just it's kind of a personal call. Somebody hearing this stuff and going, well, that's amazing. And that's, so who's to say what's worth putting on, what isn't, I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, it's a judgment call. But yeah, I mean, you could be right. I mean, maybe
I think eventually it's up to the family,
absolutely.
what they put out, because there was a lot of stuff released that was Edward just on guitar, even with drum machines, the Wildlife soundtrack,
Yeah.
or the Seduction of Gina
Yeah.
soundtrack,
Yeah.
stuff like that, stuff that is out there that really only the diehard fans know about.
Yeah.
So that stuff will be new to somebody that doesn't know it. But that stuff does exist, but it didn't seem like Edward was even happy with that stuff. It's like he would do it and he would, we're just doing it just to do it. It really wasn't a big deal. It wasn't really anything, or the Wildlife, soundtrack, stuff that you probably heard like beforehand.
I may have, and I know I asked him about that. And he said, yeah, Camera Crow just came to him to do some stuff, and he did. And I think it was a Wildlife soundtrack. He actually didn't want anything on there, or he did want. But anyway, there was some kind of a little kerfuffle somewhere, and I write about it. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Yeah. But he did talk about the Seduction of Gina, which is Valerie Bertinelli's film, if anybody doesn't know. He goes, Valerie, Valerie wanted me to do something. So,
it was filmed up here. It was filmed it was filmed in San Francisco.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, you don't say no to the wife, right? I think, I think on any given day, he probably would have rather not have done that. But I remember he did one song, and the director wanted to put a vocal to it. And Ed said putting a vocal to this one track would have made it sound like something schmaltzy, At that point, he tried to, pull away. I think Valerie wanted to do like, the whole movie, put bits and pieces. And I think Ed just ended up doing, maybe one or two songs, I think. But that was
he did the intro, and then he did a driving scene where she's racing home from Vegas over the Bay Bridge into the city.
If anybody would know that, it would be you.
I saw that movie all the time because they would play it out here all the time because it was filmed here.
Oh, really? Was that the movie with MacGyver? What's his name? She did a movie with MacGyver.
No,
I can't think of his name. Harry. He's got like three names.
Harry Dean Anderson.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, so it was another movie that she did with him. And this is kind of off the subject. We're talking about her movies and Edward. And Ed went on the set one day to hang out. And, this guy, the MacGyver, he's a really nice looking guy. And he's a movie star.
He's MacGyver.
MacGyver. And
could fix anything with nothing.
Exactly. And Edward was jealous. I just thought that was like, it's so great. I mean, not that he was jealous, because I believe he was genuine, but the fact that Edward Van Halen was jealous of his wife, Valerie Bertinelli, being Edward, and I say that, and I put that in the book just to show that he did have that side of him, he got jealous, and then he got, sad sometimes. And I just thought it was amazing when he was telling me the story. I couldn't believe he was saying it. I thought he was just joking. Valerie didn't do anything. She was just on the set with him. But he saw her, like doing scenes together, and he said that to me. I just thought it was amazing. Yeah.
You said seeing the other side of Ed. That brings up one other question I'd have. Did you see the deal with Jason Becker and auction, Eddie giving him the guitar in the video? Did you ever see that video?
I didn't see the video. I've seen pictures.
Okay.
But I didn't have any knowledge that he had done that. No. But I know that he did do that. Yeah, and that was pretty extraordinary.
In that video, you don't see the rock star, you see the person, and that was really. And I mean, the guitar sold for 130,000, which I thought is whoever bought it got it for a steal. I thought it should have went for a lot more than that. But
you're probably right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, he definitely. The guy had a big heart. You know, he was. I mean, he really was an understanding guy. I mean, he truly was. With me, he was always. You know. Because, I mean, it would have just taken one little word from him, you know. I mean, you know, as crazy as it sounds, I played guitars with Ed a couple of times, you know, just jams, you know. And, you know, on my best day, I'm a mediocre guitar player. So sitting there playing guitars with him, I mean, it was almost impossible, to be honest with you. And, you know, if he had just said, you know, oh man, you're playing a little out of tune, or it would have. I would have frozen like a snowman. You know, it would have just hurt so fucking much. But he never ever went that way. It was like always this more encouraging side. You know, if I did something, I remember I was trying to do one of his hammers, but the way he does it, you know, he'd say, "Well, it depends on where one is, and it's a triplet." And I'm going. Yeah, and so I'm sitting there, you know, and I know it's wrong because I can feel it. Mine sounds more, it just doesn't sound like his, you know. And I'm doing it, and I get it right one time. He goes, yeah, that's it, that's good. And that was it, you know, that's what he was waiting to hear, you know, and that's what he talked about, you know. So that was amazing. So he definitely had that side in him, man, that really vulnerable, fragile side, the supportive side. He was amazing. I mean, he really was.
It was really interesting to see that video of him at Jason's house. Like I said, it just made it other than people like you guys who actually got to meet him, it made it seem, you know, he's not just this guy you saw on MTV or on stage. He really is this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what that video did for me. So
yeah, that's cool. You know, and you know, there were times when we talk about non-music stuff, and that typically happened in what I've described as the Twilight tapes, and they're called the Twilight tapes because Edward would call me at ungodly hours in the morning, you know, because he was nuts, and that's, you know, Edward. That was really his. That was his trademark, man. You know, he worked at those unbelievable hours. And so he'd call, you know, and he'd just want to talk about something. And sometimes it was about his family. And sometimes it was the relationships with, you know, the other guys in the band. Sometimes it was, you know, working with producers. And in those moments, you know, you see this other side of Edward Van Halen. You know, he's talking about his dad, and you know, there's one tape, and I remember this clearly. So when I started to write the book, you know, I'm pulling out all the cassettes and stuff, and I find this one binder, and it's unlabeled, and I see all these tapes in there, and I honestly didn't know what they were. They were just like sort of off to them, like sitting on a separate shelf, and I open it up, and it's like in one of those plastic binders, you know, and the spine of the binder is broken. You know, it's like, well, if I put tapes in here, they couldn't have been very valuable. I mean, this cassette binder is a piece of shit, you know. So I remember pulling one out, and it just said something like, I think it said like REL, which is like relationship, and there's some other cryptic message. Anyway, I put it on, and as soon as where it was queued up, it comes on, and he's saying, my dad thinks I'm a genius, and I can hear him. He's literally starting to break up. I can hear him starting to cry. And I remember that moment so clearly. And yeah, man, he would talk about his dad and his family, and he would get emotional. I mean, he loved his dad, and he talked about his dad passing away. And this is years before his dad passed away. And he goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'll do, And I said, you're a strong guy, man. You'll be okay. He goes, no, I really don't know. And when his dad did pass away, and I write about that, he was broken. I mean, I'd never seen him like that. I mean, it was sad. I say all of this by way of explaining that he really was a highly emotional guy, and so for him to be that way around Jason, and we know that he, gave one of his guitars and put it in the, when Dime passed away, but he definitely had that side of him, and I think all of that comes out in his artistry, in his writing, and I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but these are things I was thinking about when I was writing the book. So, I mean, you think about that era when Edward, was coming up, and those other guitar players that were around him, that Sunset Strip thing, there were some incredibly good guitar players, right? Warren DeMartini, who is amazing, who kindly gave me a blurb for the back of my book, which I'm just blown away by. George Lynch, Terry Kilgore was and still is an amazing guitar player. Rusty Anderson, who went on to play with Paul McCartney. You can imagine how good a guitar player you had to be to play with Paul McCartney, right? I mean, these guys were extraordinary guitar players. Each brought something unique to what they did. But there was something about Edward. And was it that he was a better guitar player? I don't know, man. Better is a difficult word to define. It was just something about that emotionalism, that thing we were just talking about, that heart, that passion, everything he played, you felt in every note he played. And I wrote about Edward, when he played, it was everything sort of below the music that you felt. It was just like this unseen, unfelt thing, but was there, very difficult to explain. But, I think it was really that set him apart from these other amazing guitar players. The thing that made Edward a legend, beyond just being an amazing guitar player. At least that's how I thought about it. He just, every note that he played, meant something to him. And I think everybody who has heard his music, it has meant something to them as well. So, yeah, man, he was a rare guy.
I have one more question, then I'll shut up because it's Johnny's show. So,
make it short.
What do you think? Was you around? Oh, well, first time caller, long time listener. Were you around, or what did you think of the? I don't know if it was an engineered rivalry between Eddie and Randy Rhoads.
Man, that's an excellent question. That is one of my great regrets. I was talking earlier about how, I would ask Ed a question, and in my head, it didn't merit a follow-up. And then guys, would latch on to those things like, oh, I wish I talked about it more. Randy Rhoads is one of those subjects. I asked him one question about Randy. We were talking about something, and it wasn't a conversation specifically about guitar players. But I think I just asked him kind of apropos of nothing, what do you think of Randy Rhoads? Excuse me. And he says, yeah, Randy's a good guitar player, excuse me. Randy is one of the few guys who admits that he, was influenced by me. But again, I wish I'd pursued that further. I later found out, yeah, there was this rivalry, which I could never understand why. I never met Randy. I did write a book about Randy Rhoads, but I never met him. I put the book together with the framework of the book has sort of been written by my good friend Andrew Klein, and so I sort of fleshed it out with interviews I had done, people he had played with, but I never interviewed Randy. I heard that he was just nothing but a very, very sweet, quiet guy. So I can't understand why Edward would have treated him that way. And there were some confrontations that people that I respect who were there and saw Ed, being a little mean to Randy and disrespectful. and again, this is me hypothesizing that for Edward to have done that, there must have been just the teeniest, and I might get shot down for this, bit of jealousy, or why else, or he just would have dismissed Randy, hand out of mouth, say, yeah, he's okay, but for him to kind of go that extra mile to kind of insult Randy, that's my way of thinking. Was it engineered? No, I think it was real. I don't know where it came from. It's funny. In the back of the book, there's a thing called Van Halen's Voices, and some of those interviews were interviews I had done for the first edition. And I had an interview that I'd done with Ozzy. And this was before I started writing for the book. So it wasn't specifically for the book. But somehow I don't know if I had asked him about Edward. I think I'd asked him about Edward Van Halen. And he goes, yeah, Edward is a great guitar player, And he made such an interesting comment. He said, well, if Edward had been in my band and Randy had been in Van Halen, we would be talking about Randy now. And I thought, that's not a insane thing to say. I just thought it was a really interesting thing to say. But yeah, there definitely was a rivalry there. Unfortunately, and again, I wish I'd talked to Edward more about it.
I just always wondered. I've always wondered, because you hear people say that Dave and Edward would go watch Randy play, but then there's people say, including Randy's brother and sister, said that Randy never went and watched Eddie play, but they played a week or two after Van Halen got signed. They played it with what was that, Johnny? That was a college event
where Pasadena City College.
Yeah, where they Quiet Riot ended up opening because Van Halen got signed a couple weeks prior to that.
Yeah,
as far as I know, that was the only time they were ever, like on stage or shared the same stage at the same night.
That's entirely possible. I don't know if, and again, I really don't know if Randy never did go see Edward play. I don't know. I mean, if somebody more knowledgeable says he didn't, I believe that. But yeah, just one of those weird things, to the two great guitar players, and
I don't understand the comparison, because it's completely two different styles.
Yeah. Completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. Randy was, stylistically he was completely different, but Randy was a much more, I don't know the word, stylized, a much more, he was triple tracking his guitars. I mean, he was certainly, it was a little bit more of a schooled approach. Whereas I think with Edward, as smart as he was, it was still a little bit more of an organic thing, but yeah, entirely different. Absolutely. But, well, there you go, man. There's a mystery we'll never solve. So.
All right, Johnny, I'll zip up. So.
Ron is a huge Randy Rhoads fan, so that's his thing, and we talk about this all the time, about Van Halen.
I was just curious, Ron, if you ever heard about the Randy Rhoads book I did. Not that you.
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that. I'm going to look at what's the name of it.
Randy Rhoads.
Okay. All right. Well,
it is called Randy Rhoads. So my friend Andrew Klein was friends with Randy, took lessons, adored, idolized Randy, and wanted to write a book about him. Approached the Rhoads family and got the okays from everybody, and went ahead and, as I mentioned, sort of put together the framework for the book. And then he gave it to me and I finished it. And then all hell broke loose. They said, you don't have our okay. We're going to come after you. We're going to slap an injunction on you. Guitar World was going to serialize it. I mean, it was going to be out there. And notwithstanding the fact that I wrote it, it was a really good book in as much as graphically it was beautiful. It was a huge, oversized book. Andrew had spared no expense gathering photos, The paper was beautiful. I mean, it was an amazing book. But after the Rhodes family sort of, took legal action, basically he had to warehouse basically all the copies. I don't know how many were actually sold. There was only 2,000 printed. And at the end of the day, I mean, he was just stuck with all these copies. They eventually did sell. And now if you go on, I think there's one on Amazon or eBay for $1,500 or something.
Wow.
But it was a really good book. It's a shame that it never saw the light of day because, I mean, Andrew poured, blood, sweat, and tears into it. Ended up costing him a lot of money to defend himself from the Rhodes family. It's a shame, The Rhodes family, they were invited to be involved, I mean, it would have been amazing, but,
That's a shame.
And to this day, there's never been like the definitive book from the Rhodes family, right? I mean, all the stuff they must be sitting on, we're still waiting for that. Yeah, there's the cover.
That's the book right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came out with the wine. The Randy Rhodes wine. It's got the, the polka dot. I got one sitting right back there. Sandoval.
There's a question in the chat here. Why didn't Randy's family want it? Stephen Franklin. I can tell you what I really believe it is because the book itself was amazing. I mean, there was no trash in there, It was just an amazing book, beautiful graphics, beautiful photos. I think it was because the book didn't originate with them, and it was more about control than anything else. And they said, we want to come out with our own book. Well, okay, we're still waiting for that one. And I've seen that happen before. I actually ran into that. I wrote a book on Jeff Beck. It was actually the first biography to come out. It came out in Japanese. I was writing for a magazine called Player, and they wanted to do a book on Jeff Beck. And I came out with this book. And to make a long story short, I wanted to get Edward. I wanted to get Jeff's input. I wanted to be like a authorized book, He never would agree to that. But I kind of still wanted his, I wanted him to say, yeah, it's okay. Go ahead and do it. I wrote letters and I tried to reach out to his management. They said, yeah, Jeff's kind of into it. I'll talk to him about it. And it just never happened. Months and months and months went by. And so I finally decided to go ahead and write the book. And sure enough, I hear from his official photographer. I run into him one day. Jeff Beck fucking hates you. He fucking hates you for writing that book. I go, excuse me? He fucking hates you. I don't think Jeff ever saw the book. He certainly never read the book because it was in Japanese. But it was because I went ahead and did it kind of without his sanction. I didn't get his blessing because he wanted to write his own book, which he finally did. He came out with that a beautiful book. I think it was about limited edition, 3 or 4 years ago. But, I would have been waiting, 78, I would have been waiting 50 years for it. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's more about the control of it, that they want to say they did it rather than it coming from somewhere else. But
I think you and Johnny ought to get together and write a book on what Eddie's impact onto the fans.
There you go.
There you go, Johnny.
I was thinking we'd write a book about our adventures at NAMM.
Exactly.
Because, again, like I said, a little while ago, reading. Well, I mean, you're the article you did for Guitar World. Was it 85? Where you went to NAMM with Edward? Where you went to the house, you called, and the whole thing. Yeah. Stevie Ray Vaughan's on the cover, I think.
Exactly.
Right? Is that the one? Yeah.
It is New Orleans. The New Orleans story.
New Orleans NAMM show, and so I grew up reading that, and walking around the NAMM show with you is exactly like that. It's the same exact thing. So it's kind of like it's a very, very cool experience.
That's so funny, man. That's so cool. You know, when I wrote that story, so uh, uh, I told Guitar World, you know, that's when Ed kindly flew me out on his dime because at first he was going to take, I think he was going to take Don Landy, the engineer. Then Don couldn't go, and then he was going to take Rudy Laren, his tech. And Rudy was out with Motley Crue at the time, I think, or so Rudy couldn't go. So Edward took me, and so I told Guitar World, and they said, "Well, definitely, you know, take notes. You know, we want to run a story." So I remember, you know, going around with Edward, you know, and you know, hanging out with him, and you know, Nugent and Brian May, you know, and it was pretty amazing, you know, and walking on, you know, Bourbon Street with him and getting drunk. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I got back and I thought, well, how can I write this, you know? And honestly, what struck me, who's one of my favorite writers and probably the funniest book ever written, is Hunter Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You know, so Hunter has an assignment to go to Las Vegas to cover the Mint 400, which is a motorcycle race. And the book eventually becomes Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And it's written in first person because it has to be written in first person. So I thought the only way I can write this book is first person. And the last thing you're supposed to do when you're writing a magazine article is write it in first person. Because nobody really cares about your opinion, about my opinion. So it has to be written in a third opinion, you know, third person, you know. So the weekend started deceptively simple when we went, you know what I mean? It can't be when I went. But I thought, you know what? There's no way around this. So I wrote the whole thing, and I thought, oh my God, they're going to hate this, and they loved it, you know. And the response has been pretty cool too. And you know, man, I reflected back on that story when I started writing the book. I really didn't know. I didn't know how to write it. I didn't know what kind of a book it was going to be. Was I just going to put in all my interviews, which I could have done, you know, and just the interviews, you know, it would have been a much simpler book to write. Yeah, you know. But I thought, well, but there's so much other stuff that's not in the interviews, you know. And so actually my friend Andrew Klein said, hey, man, you know, because I posed a problem to him. I go, man, I'm thinking about writing the book, but I just don't know what to do. And he goes, just write it in first person. And I go, oh, I can do that. I know who I am. You know, I can be me as well as anybody else. And so that was really the key, you know. And I thought back to that story, and I thought, yeah, people got off on that, you know. And so I tried to become this, you know, a bouncing board, you know, somebody, you know, who is there, but you're right there with me. You're right there on the couch, you know. Yeah. And this is what I'm feeling, and I want you to feel that, you know. And that's when I went into those little sections that I call the notes section. So here's this guy, Steve Rosen, he's writing this book in first person, and he's writing about, you know, Edward Van Halen coming over to his house, and Edward playing his guitar and playing the riffs from the second Van Halen record. And how amazing is that? And that Steve Rosen, that guy in that room, is writing about that. But maybe that's not enough information for you, the reader. So I go to my notes section, and here's this omniscient guy. This guy knows everything. He knows more than Steve Rosen. He's smarter than this Rosen dude. He knows everything. So now he can comment on maybe some of that stuff that Rosen didn't see. And, you know, Edward smoking and choking on the cigarette smoke, and how Edward was holding the guitar pick, and how did he have his legs crossed, and, you know, did he eat potato chips that day, you know? So, yeah, by writing in first person, I was sort of the eyes and ears, you know, for everybody. And, you know, it was a tough job, you know. That's why I had to break things down into such minutia, you know, and watching him tune a guitar, it was amazing. I mean, you know, it was like watching Da Vinci dip his paintbrush, you know. I mean, it would have been extraordinary to see that, or Steinbeck typing on his typewriter. It would have been a ballet, right? It would have been amazing. And it was, watching him do these things. So I had to explode everything out, you know, and what could have been said in one paragraph, you know. It took me 3 pages. You know, those schematics, those diagrams you see where it'll explode everything out like a guitar, but every screw and every rivet and every, and on the side will be like the legend of every piece and every, that's how I saw the book. Every thought had to be exploded out, into something where people really felt, like they were there. They could smell the cigarette smoke, and they were getting drunk and high with us, and that was my that was really, I thought, my my burden. I thought I got to do this right, or it's going to come out as it's just going to be ridiculous. It's going to be a bunch of nonsense. But at the end, when I was done with it, I thought this is good. I'd never read anything like that. And part of that scared me, but part of that I really thought was great. It doesn't read like a biography. It's not really a memoir. I did stuff you're not supposed to do. I jump back and forth in time. You're not supposed to do that in biographies. And then I thought, it's my book. Fuck it. I'm going to make it 580 pages. If nobody ever reads it, at least I can say I did it. Of course, I wanted people to read it, but at a point in time, you got to follow your nose, and I did. And thank goodness it all worked out.
Yeah, and you don't just want them to read it; you want them to leave Amazon reviews too.
I would love Amazon. It's funny, and I was talking to Johnny about this earlier. All you wonderful people out there, you'll send me these amazing letters, these long letters, emails, and tell me, you dug the book and you love that chapter, and, so much was revealed to you. And yet I can't get you people to go and post the same fucking thing on Amazon. What's wrong with you? No, I'm kidding. Amazon loves that stuff for some reason, and if I get 8 million reviews, I get to climb up the ladder, and I don't know what it means, but all I know is it's good in the end. So if you haven't left a review, please go and leave one. And if you go to Amazon, you can just type in ToneChaser and you'll find my page. If you didn't buy the book on Amazon, that's cool as well. And please leave your comments. And if you're going to leave something nasty, don't. No, I'm kidding.
Leave it down below in the comments on this video. That's the link. That's a short link. That's a short link to your Amazon right there. So anybody that clicks on that link can go directly to your Amazon page and drop a review for your book.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's the internet.
You did it just now?
I did that just now.
Wow. Dude, I am not kidding. I cannot believe that. That's unbelievable. Thank you.
Oh, dude, anytime.
That's crazy. My God. The headache I have, oh my, what I go through, you cannot even believe. The simplest things, the iPhone, I cannot even begin to tell you. Oh my God. Oh man.
Yeah. So you guys, click on that link. Click on that link right there. That'll take you directly to the Steve Rosen ToneChaser Amazon page, and you can drop a review for the book. Yeah, and they can get the book from there. There's
the book's not available because I'm out of stock at the moment. I'm waiting for the 3rd edition, but the link is still there, and it shows the cover for the 2nd edition. But as soon as I get books, and I'm hoping first week of March, then the Amazon page will be live again. And for whoever is interested, if you're not an Amazon person, it will also be up on eBay, Reverb, and Etsy. And actually, you can pre-order on Reverb. It's weird that Reverb allows pre-orders. But I was going to tell anybody, listen, I made up a little, in fact, give me 1 second here. Can you see I made up, the little ToneChaser guitar picks.
Guitar
picks.
Wow.
Everybody who pre-orders, I will send a pic to you. I'll tell you what, anybody here watching tonight, if you go and put up a review, and prove to me you put up a review, I'll send you guys a guitar pick if you give me a shout.
Right on. Well, drop in the review. Say, hey, I saw you on Johnny Beane TV. And
There you
any of
go.
those reviews that say Johnny Beane TV in them,
There you
that's how
go.
you know it's tonight.
There you go. Yeah, they are cool picks. Cool picks. A company called Steve Clayton Picks.
Oh, yeah.
Did these for me. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff. They were amazing. They're incredible. They're very supportive, and I love them. So if you want any custom-made picks, please go to Steve Clayton and tell him Steve Rosen sent you. You can pre-order on Reverb or on my website, ToneChaserBook.com. Just answering one of the chat questions here.
There you go. There's the link to the Amazon.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I have the web. I have the. I told you I need 2 more arms.
2 more arms. You've got 5
if-
more monitors.
I've got 3 monitors in front of me here.
Do you really?
He's got an intern here in the chat room,
My intern is in the chat right now,
but she'll be right
but
back.
she just left. Yeah, she just left. She's not here anymore.
Oh, just one more thing, Johnny. People asking where on Reverb. Again, if you go to Reverb and just type in ToneChaser, you'll find it.
Here, I'll do that right now. There it is. ToneChaser. Let me see. Is this you? Wait a minute.
It should have the cover of the. I think I put the 3rd edition cover up.
ToneChaser music. ToneChaser. Oh, here it is.
Is it
I
there?
found it. There's a few there's different ones, but this is the one that they want right here. There we go. Okay, there's the reverb link. Right there.
Oh, that's killer, man.
So
Yeah, I think there might be a company called ToneChaser. I think it's 2 words, but I want everybody to know that when I came up, well, I didn't come up with it. When Edward told me that in 2003, these companies didn't exist. So I was the first.
Yeah. There
Cool.
you go. So these links will also be down below in the description of the video here on YouTube and in the comments on Facebook, all that stuff.
Excellent.
So,
And
there
I
you go.
I wanted to say one thing here. Actually, no one's ever asked, but I want to explain why. The price of the book on my site is less than it is on Reverb and Amazon and Etsy, and that's because those guys take a lot out in fees. So that's the reason why. So if you want to just order them from my my website, that's totally cool. A lot of people like Amazon, there's a, they have a return thing. Though if any of your books are ever damaged, even in the slightest, I will happily replace them. And in the many, 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 many books I've mailed out, I think only really about 2 or 3 have gotten damaged. And I understand somebody wants a pristine book. I would want one if somebody sent me a book, and I will happily replace it. So so we're looking at the cover of the 3rd edition. That banner there, 3rd edition, will not be on the actual cover. But so you're looking at another Niels Lozauer photo. And I asked Neil when that was taken, and he doesn't know. There probably be some of you out there, and we talked about this earlier, Johnny. So if you look closely, it's a little difficult to see in this photo. The cover of the book will be bigger, of course. Can you get the guitar picks in there, Johnny? Raise it up, raise it up.
right there.
Oh, no, yeah, there are those 4. And now can you raise it up a little more to get to the guitar picks on his guitar? The other way, Johnny? There you go. Perfect. So you can see those 4 guitar picks upside down on his guitar. A lot of guitar players do that. I think that's a piece of Velcro somehow. and there might be a little piece of Velcro on the back of the guitar pick as
Yeah.
well.
It's
But guys
it's,
should
it's
look at
gaffer
that.
tape.
What's that?
It's gaffer tape.
Could be gaffer tape, but I think
Gaffer
gaffer
tape.
tape might be a little too sticky. So I was actually trying to figure out how that was done. Yeah, it could be gaffer tape.
Yeah,
Maybe
he would roll the tape. He would either use gaffer tape, electrical tape, or duct tape, and he would roll the tape and then put it on the guitar, or on the amp up here. That's the same thing. That's the same thing up there.
Yeah, I actually think those are. We talked about this earlier. If you can read that, it says bass, strings, bass, hardware. I think those are Mike's picks.
Yes, those are Michael's guitar picks. Yes, because Edward's guitar picks, a lot of times they were like these down here. These are the tortoise.
Yeah.
The tortoise ones. And then the Michael Anthony picks were always multicolored. Blue,
Exactly.
orange, like all the different ones.
Exactly. I think Ed had some white picks, that 5150 pick he had. Typically they were always tortoise. So, so in other words, again, talking about the year, looking at that pick, I don't have that knowledge. But, guys can go, oh, yeah, Ed used that on the 85 tour or whatever. So
I can tell you when that was.
I was gonna say you probably know, Johnny.
Well, let's ask the chat.
You probably even know the day that was taken and what tour it was.
Wow, I can tell you the tour. In the chat, what year was that photograph? And then any questions you guys have?
Oh, here,
for Steve.
here, I'm just looking at a couple here. At Steve Rosen, could you throw us a promo code? What does that mean?
A promo code for the book?
A promo code?
Like a discount. Something they could type in at checkout and get it like a 5% or 10% discount, whatever.
When you, if you get the book off the website, just tell me you watched the Johnny Beane show and you asked me about it, and I'll figure it out. I'll give you free shipping or something.
Yeah, the promo code's Johnny Beane. There you go.
Exactly. And somebody else had asked, do I sell signed copies? I sell signed copies for $300 each. I'm kidding. I don't charge
$400.
Exactly. I don't charge for signatures. Just tell me you want one.
You're not
and I'll happily sign.
You're not Robbie Krieger, huh? Robbie Krieger won't sign autographs anymore now unless he gets paid for it.
I'll tell you, man, I'll go one even worse. I just read where Jimmy Page uses a stamp. That is low, man. I mean, come on. You can't take
You mean in person?
Yeah.
Like you walk up to him and you say, "Can I have an autograph?" He'll take a stamp.
Oh! If you walk up to him, he's on the street. I think he'd say, "Fuck off." But no, I'm talking about book signings. For his book, he uses a stamp. I find that I find that
That gives me ideas.
Oh man,
I've got your autograph right here, and we're actually giving your autograph away in a little bit too.
we are. So Johnny, Steve Barton says the photos from 1983. Is that correct?
Who said that? Steve Barton?
Steve Barton?
Steve Martin?
Steve Barton?
He's a wild and crazy guy.
Steve Barton? That photograph right there.
And then somebody said, "Is that
I would
Diver
say-
Down?" I'm sorry.
It's Diver Down. I would say that photo is from 1982. That's what I would say. 82. And what gives it away is, the overalls and the guitar. You didn't see that guitar that much. You only saw that guitar for a little while during 82.
That's the only tour?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a
that
Kramer.
guitar is-
That's a Kramer. That's a purple Pacer. There's actually photos of him jamming with Alan Holdsworth, and he's playing that guitar, but without all the tape on it, where it's just a purple guitar. And then he striped it up and played it during the Diver Down tour in 82. There was two legs. There was the 82 half, and there was the 83 half, which was in South America. But you saw him playing a totally different guitar for those shows.
So but that guitar is painted. when you say taped up, or is that?
No, that's just tape. That's not
Is it
paint.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. That's. Wait, what did I say? Paint? No, that's tape. Yeah, that's
No, no,
tape.
you said tape. You said taped up.
That's taped up. So you can look. That's just tape.
Wow.
That's just tape rolled around it. It's a purple guitar originally, and then that's tape. That's orange, white.
I've seen that purple guitar. I was at the when he jammed with Holdsworth. I was out here, right at GIT.
Yeah, that's the same guitar, but it was just purple when you saw them.
Wow, cool. Yeah, I just love that. I mean, I had seen that guitar before, but I knew that it was it was a guitar that you didn't see him playing that much, which is why I dug it.
Yeah. There's very few photos of him playing that guitar live during that tour.
Cool.
So, because that's when he first started doing the Kramer thing, playing Kramers.
Right, exactly. In fact, I think wasn't it with that purple guitar? He put a piece of tape over the Kramer name.
Yeah, when you saw him with Alan Holdsworth, there's the tape over the logo.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you're a nerd too, man. You know this stuff.
I know what I know, but what I don't know is vast. I mean, I should have known that was tape. I should have said, "Oh yeah, tape. Of course it's tape." Any moron knows that.
You know all those cassettes you have of his interviews. The people in the chat would pay top dollar for you to hear those.
Well, it took me a long time to share any of that stuff, not just Ed's stuff. There was a site, I think it was just called rock.com. And I'd met this guy, and he had licensed some of my interviews. And I think I actually put up, and this goes back a few years. I think I put up like 15 minutes of one of the interviews that I later put up on YouTube. And I can't remember. Do you know, Johnny?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You put up, well, I remember you put up a 1979 interview with Edward.
79?
A 79. That's how I first found you, just online. And I tried getting a hold of you then. That was like 10 years ago. I tried getting a hold of you then.
Yeah.
Because there's a photo of you holding a Kramer guitar, jamming with Edward at 5150.
Right.
And I'm telling you, hey, my friend owns that guitar.
Oh, that's right.
The one that you're playing. Like, I've played that guitar. I've played it. Because Edward gave it away at the NAMM show in 85. And you were there. I think you were there as well.
I was.
So
interesting.
So I remember.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you put out a 79 interview on YouTube, but then there was also part of an interview like on iTunes, which might have been that one, or maybe another one. Way back when, 10 years ago.
Seriously, if it was on,
and it was rock. You know what? It was rock something.
I did a series of interview tapes. What was it called? Yeah, right. It was rock something. Rock. Yeah. Not rock odds. Rock. You're right. And this guy that I was working with, I believe he put it on iTunes, because I wouldn't have had a clue in hell how to put it up on iTunes. So no, you're right. Yeah. So that was kind of the first time I ever put any of my stuff out there. Up until then, it was just I don't know, man. It was just too personal. You know, it was my stuff. I didn't want to share. You know, I wanted. You know, I'm going to take my football, and it's my football, and I'm not going to let you play with it. You know. And then
it was called Rock. It was called Rock Talk.
That's it.
I have it. It's this.
You are unbelievable.
Telling you, you two need to get together and write a book about how Edward Van Halen changed my life.
We're going to get coffee at the NAMM show next week.
You bet we are.
There you go. Steve, tell him how Eddie Van Halen changed my life. You and Johnny right there.
Steve Rosen changed my life.
Well, there you go.
I also put up some other stuff. We did them like in I think there was like like a classic rock, tape. And there was one of like metal guys, I thought they were amazing. They got a little bit of a response. There wasn't enough to kind of advertise it or anything. I don't think he did much, promotion. But yeah, so that was the first time. And then at the point in time, I thought, you know what, maybe other people would like to hear this stuff, and maybe they'd get something from So I started the YouTube channel. I had a friend start the YouTube channel because, again, I wouldn't have had a clue how to put that together. And put some stuff up and put like the complete version, I think, of that 79 interview, and put up, I think, another one, and put up some stuff with Dave and Mike, and put up the stuff with Zeke. Now there's an interview. I'm thinking, I did that interview with Zeke. As I mentioned earlier, I was going to write the book about Edward back in '85. So I interviewed Zeke Clark, who's his guitar tech at the time. And, or maybe it was '86 that I interviewed Zeke.
It was, it was 86 when Sammy was with them.
Exactly.
That's where this photo comes in. This is 86.
Exactly. So, and I kind of remember doing the interview, and I'm thinking, well, God, all we did was talk about guitars and effects, and it's like, who's going to want to listen to that, But then I had reached out to
right here.
I'd reached out to Zeke recently, and that's the picture, and Zeke sent the picture with the book, a picture of him with the book, and I thought, you know what, now's a good time for me to put that, so I put it out, and yeah, you guys love that stuff. I mean, it's like it's another like layer of the onion peeled back, because obviously Zeke had insights and knowledge about stuff that maybe nobody else knew, and yeah, man, and I love hearing that, hearing that, that interview becomes a little part of Van Halen lore. And yeah, we know about Van Halen because of that Zeke Clark interview that Steve Rosen did. There you go.
Yep, there he is.
And Zeke's got some amazing memorabilia, let me tell you. Guitars that Edward gave him, and laminates and passes and picks and jackets and everything. Yeah, I was going to put that picture up, but I thought it had been seen kind of before.
That photo was in the 5150 tour book.
Oh, was it really?
So it's out there, but again, you have to be a mega dork like us to really to know that, because you would have had to go to the show, buy the tour book, or whatever. So it's not a real widely known photo. And like this one, the one of him working on Sammy's guitar, like this one I'd never seen before.
That's cool, right?
That's really cool. All the amps back there and stuff.
I just love the Marshalls in the background there.
That's
and what's that other one in there, Johnny? It looks like it's that black guitar. Did I put that one up? Did I?
Yeah, the Gibson.
Yeah.
Is it a Gibson? Do you know the story of that?
I do not.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Did I put that picture up?
Yeah, you put it up.
Yeah. And you don't know the story of it?
Of this? No.
Yeah. How's that possible?
No. I don't know.
I stumped the great JB? Well, you better do your homework.
This is my last show right now. Because I've never seen this guitar. I'm
I think it's a guitar that Edward gave to Zeke, so nobody's seen it. That's what I think. I don't think it's one of his stage guitars. I could be entirely wrong.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a stage guitar, but it's.
I like the Bigsby tremolo on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Imagine Ed using a Bigsby.
Yeah.
Though Ed on those early guitars, he was playing those a 335, but the 335 wasn't a Bigsby, was it? Wasn't just a Gibson tremolo, but it was kind of it didn't really do anything, didn't do much. But I think, his whole thing started there because the 335 was one of his early guitars.
Yeah, because he took the pickup out of the 335, and that's what he put into the Frankenstein.
Right, and Skyprop here accurately points out that he did have that SG, which had that aimless kind of vibrato on it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
His old SG. Johnny,
Uh,
you're losing your touch.
a couple
Hey,
people in
that
here.
the
Go ahead,
photo
John.
was just published today, so
So,
Exactly.
Steve, a couple people in here want to know what your funniest story is about Edward.
Oh man.
it's in the book, Ron.
Well, I'm asking from the chat.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I
if
saw
I
that.
tell what I think is one of the funniest stories, I mean, if you haven't read the book, this chapter may be a little less touching to you, but still it's amazing. The guitar string story to me is hilarious beyond, oh my God. So I'm over at Ed's, I'm up in 5150, and we're surrounded by guitars, and the outboard stuff, and there's a drum set up, and the microphones and the cables, and he's got the board. I mean, it's nicer than any studio you've ever been in. And he's stringing a guitar, stringing his own guitar. So he's stringing it, and he goes, "Oh, I don't have any strings." So he goes over, one of his cabinets, and he opens it, and I can see, there's like, there's everything they'd ever want if you're, building guitars. There's necks and, pickups and pliers. And he's looking, he looks at another cabinet, and then he goes, "I don't have any guitar strings." And I think to myself, he's joking. There's no way that Edward Van Halen has run out of guitar strings. So I go, "Yeah, you don't have any guitar strings?" He goes, "No, man, I don't make guitar strings." That was hilarious in and of itself. So he says, "Yeah, so let's go and get some guitar strings." I go, "Oh, okay, sure. We'll go and buy some guitar strings because you don't have any." We jump in his Countach, which I'd never been in before. And anybody that's been in a Countach, that it's called scissor doors that open up sideways. And it takes a little bit of doing to maneuver yourself into them. So he jumps in like it's nothing, and I'm there, and I'm trying to get in, and one foot is out, and I'm banging, and I can't get in. And he's starting the car, and I can't get in. I finally get in, close the doors. We go screaming down. Edward lived on Coldwater Canyon. We go screaming down Coldwater to Ventura, which is like the big street, big artery there. And we make a left, and we go to the Guitar Center in Studio City. And he goes screaming, there you
Like
go.
that? Something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so the two doors, instead of opening,
gull-wing doors.
Gull-wing doors. Thank you, Ron. So we pull up the Guitar Center, and we get out of the car, and we walk in, and it's kind of empty. There's a few people, and we walk in instantly, man. The guy behind the counter looks over, and he sees this guy walking in, and I tell you, I thought he was going to stroke out. He was going to fall on the floor. This guy looked over there, and in the book I write, had the ghost of Jimi Hendrix, John Lennon, and Brian Jones walked in. He couldn't have been any more shocked, So we walk over, and he's trying to maintain. And I've been around people before. Look, man, I was always like that. It really took a lot for me to hold back the nerd part of me, but I'd seen that reaction in people before, and justifiably, I get it. Edward Van Halen is in your Guitar Center. So Edward walks up, and the guy says, "Yeah, can I help you? Can I help you?" Edward says, "Yeah, I need a set of guitar strings." And the guy goes, yeah, what kind? And Edward used Fenders. So the guy goes and gets a set of guitar strings and brings them back. And Edward reaches in his pocket and opens his wallet. He goes, "Oh, man," to me. He goes, "Man, I don't have any money. Can I borrow some money?" I go, "Sure, Edward Van Halen. I'll loan you money for a set of guitar strings." So I buy the guitar strings. And this guy is looking at him, and he says, "Hey, man, would you sign?" And I think Edward actually signed a set of guitar strings for the guy. But Edward was cool, I mean, he was really cool with the guy. And Edward typically was when there were people around him like that. Except at NAMM shows, I've kind of seen him get a little bit burned by signing and people kind of crowding in on him. Anyway,
Mhm.
so it just that whole interaction. I go, how is it possible that he has run out of guitar strings? How does a studio manager allow him to run out of guitar strings? So he says, oh, stop at a liquor store. So we go in and he buys a 6-pack, and I know he doesn't have any money. He says, hey man, would you buy me some beer? I go, yeah man, I'll buy you some beer. So I buy him beer. So I don't know, man. Maybe you had to be there. I just find it so amazing. So we jump back into his $350,000 car, driving back to his $8 million house, into his $5 million studio, and he didn't have $20 to buy beer and guitars. There are 100 guitars around him. He could have played any other guitar, but no. He wanted to play that guitar, and it had to have new strings. I don't know, man. I just thought that was an hilarious story, and it just reveals so much about the guy. One, that he did run out of guitar strings. Two, that he did string his own guitars. Three, that he would go drive to Guitar Center to buy his own set of strings, and he didn't buy 2 sets, or he didn't buy 4 sets, because I would have bought him 100 sets. I don't care, at that point. But the fact that he would buy 1 set of guitar strings, it was just amazing to me. I don't know. I just thought that was pretty amazing. Alex Skolnick, we all know the great Alex Skolnick, and Johnny, you know him very well.
I know Alex. Yeah.
Has been reading the book and has been digging the book, and that's one of his favorite stories. So I thought I would share that one. But there are a lot of moments, man. He really had a dry sense of humor, and he'd say things not consciously trying to be funny, but just in what he said, and the way he said it. I mean, I thought the guy was hilarious. Steve Barton enjoyed my story. Thank you, buddy.
Steve Barton. Hey, thank you, man. Steve, I'll be buying you guitar strings next week.
There you go.
Wait, he just bought his own, apparently.
In fact, just a real quick story. Gary
Thank
Holt.
you, Steve Barton.
Gary Holt has been another big supporter of the book, and he kindly wrote a blurb for the back cover, which is just amazing. He's playing at this sort of NAMM-related jam on Thursday. It's called Metal Allegiance at the House of Blues up in Anaheim. And he read that story, and I think he did the story. And in one of his emails, because I've never met him, I've interviewed him, but as a phone, but never met him. He goes, yeah, man, you'll come to the gig, and I'll give you some of those guitar strings that Edward still owes you, So I think that story touched him, But yeah, it was just so amazing, that he didn't have strings and he didn't have $10 for guitar string for the set,
Do you remember what year that was? Because I can guess. I can just kind of guess, but.
Well, 5150 was built, so it has to be after 84, right? I'm guessing, I want to say 85 or 86. What do you think?
I would think 85, 86.
What
do you guys think in the chat? Well, when were those cars made?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, my brother knows. But the thing is, if they had been made, in 84, we'd be okay. I have a feeling they were made. I think they're probably.
Well, the Lamborghini Countach have been around for a while. My neighbor down the street has a black one and a yellow one.
Yeah.
So, he'd had them since late 70s.
Yeah.
So
but somebody might be. Edward sold that.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think. Well, I know he sold the Mura. I don't know if he sold the Countach, but somebody looking, because I'm sure there are pictures of Ed's Countach. I can't believe there's somebody who couldn't tell you what year it is. But that might be a way to figure it out for sure. But I'm pretty positive it was 85 or 86, because I think that's in the chronology of the book. That's where I kind of inserted that chapter. It was one of those things. There is no interview that was going on. You know what I mean? So it's me kind of remembering that moment about going, to a Guitar Center. I mean, I could have made it 88, I tried to be as accurate as possible, but pretty positive it was 85 or 86.
That's what it seems like it would have been to me.
Now, somebody in the chat's going to ask if he ever paid you back.
He did not. Never paid me back.
Whoa, is this it? Is this a photo? I just found this on the internet. Was that the car?
Pull back a little.
That's him.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's him at 5150 because you can see the Indian statue outside.
Yeah, I didn't remember the car being. God, I thought it was white. Honestly, man, I cannot remember. Deputy Van Halen says it's 85. Ryan Hall asked if I do anything more with Adam Roach. You know Adam, don't you, Johnny?
Yeah.
He's great. He's my Australian guy. Adam sells books for me in Australia to save those people postage from here to Australia, which is a ton of money. And we will be trying to get some more videos up there for sure. Ryan, thanks, man. Testarossa. Those are cool cars.
Wow. There you go. There's another
They
photo.
want to know what kind of beer he bought.
Maybe it was black. What's that?
They want to know what kind of beer he bought.
He only bought one kind of beer. Schlitz malt liquor, tall boys. Oh, there's a funny story. Just real quickly. I don't think, and I write about this, I don't think Edward ever read anything I wrote. He certainly never read anything I wrote about anybody else. And I don't think he read anything I ever wrote about him. You know, I did all those Guitar World stories. I don't think he ever read. And I was, you know, I go, Ed, yeah, you know, he'd come over to the pad and it'd be like the new issue with him on the cover. I go, yeah, that's a, you know, latest interview we did. He'd go, yeah. And not that he was, you know, he wasn't trying to be mean or anything. He just, it just didn't interest him, you know? So, okay, fair enough. So and I write about this, sorry guys, the New Orleans story.
Yes.
In the first couple of paragraphs, I go over there and it's really early in the morning because we had to take the flight, to New Orleans. And Ed's drinking a can of beer and it's Schlitz malt liquor. So I wrote that story and Ed was over at the house and I had the hard copy typewriter, the copy of the story on my little desk. And he picks it up and goes, what's this? I go, oh, that's the story I wrote from when we were in New Orleans, you know, and hanging out and stuff, you know. And, you know, I'm always saying to myself, well, he never reads anything. And then he's there reading the story and I'm thinking, oh, fuck. What if I went too far? Remember, this is the first person story and I'm saying we're drinking and, you know, he's going to read something and go crazy, you know. And he said, he puts it down and he goes, silver. And I go, excuse me? He goes, it's silver. He goes, the Schlitz malt liquor can is gold and silver. You put, is blue and silver. You put gold and blue. That's what he picks up on. The fact that I got the color of this fucking Schlitz can wrong. Oh, man. Yeah, blue and silver and blue and gold. Sorry, guys. I fucked that up. But yeah, that's what he read. That's what was important to him. Wow. Amazing. Just the kind of guy he was, you know. I think his head was too filled with music and coming up with the next riff. I don't know. I never thought Ed was a big reader. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know. He may have been reading all the time, although I can't imagine when he had time, you know. And for that matter, you know, we want to think about him listening to music all the time. I don't think he did that either. I think he did that way back in the day, right? They're a cover band, and they have like 200 songs from everybody from, you know, all the people we know, Sabbath and Purple and ZZ Top, Cream, you know, but they were doing James Brown songs, Spirit, Stray Dog, some pretty obscure stuff. But I don't think he really ever listened to music much after that. Another funny story, and then I'll leave you. I won't cover any more stories. I'll leave it for the book. So he was over at the house, and I had a big record collection. I had like 8,000 records. I had a huge collection. It was an amazing collection. And one time we go back into the bedroom where I had them, all stacked on these little homemade shelves, with wood and the bricks, threatening to fall over at any moment, and I had one stack right at the foot of my bed. Hell, those things could have fallen over and killed me, But it would have been a good way to go, right? Music journalists killed by falling records. I mean, that's a nice epitaph.
The irony of that.
Right? Exactly. So I'm pulling out records that I think he's going to dig, So I'm pulling out like, Larry Carlton. I think, my God, he would love Larry Carlton's playing, It's not what he does, but he would recognize the artistry of it, Mm-hmm. And Supertramp records, because I knew he was a big prog guy. And more obscure prog stuff, English stuff, Gong and Soft Machine, I knew that, he was a big Clapton guy, so I was trying to pull out, maybe more blues players I thought he might dig, Rory Gallagher. They probably knew Rory Gallagher. Mick Taylor stuff and Mike Bloomfield, stuff like that. Steely Dan records, and it was a pretty big stack. It was probably like 50 or 75 records, and he takes them home, and, I'm kind of waiting for him to get back to me. A week goes by saying, hey, yeah, man, I listened to that record and that was cool, And 2 weeks go by and 3 weeks go by. And I realize he's never going to listen to any of them. And no, he never gave me my records back, and he still owes me my records. So he owes me my records and my money. So, man, he was a funny guy, funny cat.
Wow. Yeah, because speaking about music that he would listen to, that's the stuff like guys like us growing up, anytime he would mention something in an interview, say with you, like, hey, I bought, what was the album he always talked about? In 1980, he bought Brand X. I bought a cassette by a band called Brand X. So all of us as kids, we're looking this up, looking for this, and we listen to it, and we're like, this doesn't sound like Van Halen.
Exactly. Alan Holdsworth, what he saw in Alan that he loved, and UK, Alan was in UK, and then famously Edward is going to produce Alan's record. And Alan got a little anxious. Edward was still on the road, and he went ahead and did it with Ted Templeman, which was a monstrous mistake. Ted is a very capable producer, but no one could have produced that record better than Edward. Who knew Alan Holzer better than Edward Van Halen? I mean, come on. It would have been an amazing record. It would have been a lot more, I hate to use the word rock, it would have been a lot more accessible to people.
Maybe Edward would have played on it, and that definitely would have pushed it.
Definitely. Yeah, Alan just should have waited, man. Sad, but Brand X, right? UK. It's funny, on the other side of that, Edward knew I was a music journalist. He knew I wrote for music magazines. I don't know how much that meant to him. Honestly, I think I could have worked in a bank, and no offense to people who work in banks, but I think I don't think we got along because I was a music journalist. I think we got along in huge part because I did have a pretty good understanding about music and guitar players and that thing. So had I been a bank teller and I still had that knowledge about music, I don't know. I think it might have been the same thing. But on the other side of that, excuse me, and my point was, I'm not quite sure what he thought I did or didn't know as a music journalist, because sometimes he never meant to be insulting, but he'd say to me, yeah, man, we do this song called Mr. Skin by a band called Spirit. Well, Spirit was one of my favorite bands. And maybe he thought Spirit was so obscure that I'd never heard of him. But for him to say Mr. Skin by Spirit, just assuming that I didn't know who Spirit was,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wasn't insulted, but it was just funny, you know. Or he'd say, "Have you ever heard of a band called Stray Dog?" You know, and I knew Stray Dog really well. You know, Snuffy Walden. You know, in fact, Snuffy kindly gave me a picture. He took a picture with the book. You know, I love Stray Dog. You know, but you know, he'd make comments like that. So I think he thought I don't really know anything. You know, but then it was weird. He was over at the house, and we were talking about Lukather. And he said, "Oh, give me Lukather's number." We had never really talked about Toto or the fact that I knew Luke pretty well. So I didn't know anything, and yet he just assumed that I had Steve Lukather's phone number. As if a music journalist had all the phone numbers for all the guitar players everywhere. And it's just weird how he looked at what I did or didn't do or knew or didn't know. I don't know, man. Funny. Funny guy. But so I think we kind of covered it there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, you can't really assume anything. I mean, and with anything.
Yeah, no.
So first impressions are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dude, well, hey, it's just amazing. And we're going to do a giveaway. We're going to give away one of your, here, let's
Nice.
do this. You guys might remember January 9th, 2023, right? I live streamed your entire event, if you remember.
That's right.
So you guys can watch that. I'll have a link. There'll be a card right up here on playback and down in the description. And comments on Facebook posts, I'll put a link to this event right here. But you guys can win. This is a Steve Rosen unique autograph and Niels Lozauer autograph.
That was a nice autograph I was rocking back then too, guys.
Look
That
at
was
that.
a nice one. Now I can't even remember how to do it.
Limited edition.
I won't do Neil's voice, so we're good.
Very limited edition. You've got the only one in existence. And I want to tell everybody, I love that, man. And that was the bottom one is a Christmas card you sent me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was nice. And see how he signs it, Edward? So
Yeah.
there's more evidence of how he'd like to be called Edward. But Book Soup, because of that book signing and you're streaming it, you know, Johnny, getting the word out there. I have now placed, I think, 10 orders with Book Soup, and for a while there, when they were first selling the book, I was like number 2 on their nonfiction list.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was only behind Michelle Obama. She beat me by a couple books, but that's pretty amazing. They've been incredibly supportive. So
Amazing.
go check out Book Soup if you're ever in West Hollywood. Amazing independent bookstore.
Incredible place. Even in the rain, the place is amazing.
Yeah,
Because it was raining like you guys wouldn't believe.
unbelievable.
It was
Unbelievable.
insane. Oh yeah. Yeah, this was that night. A couple of photos here. This was that night. Steve Rosen right there.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, I should have taken that poster.
I have it if you want it. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I should have taken it.
No kidding.
See, there's proof that we've met. There we go.
Nice.
And we'll be hanging out at the NAMM show coming up.
At the NAMM show, drinking
Next
coffee
week.
and making history.
Sneaking around, you know.
Definitely.
It'll be incredible. So let's do a giveaway. I'm gonna give both these away. You guys know how this works. You gotta type a number in the chat. Okay. What do you think, Ron? Between 0 and what?
200.
200?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that sounds crazy, but I think we can do it. Okay, in the chat. And again, this only works on YouTube. So come on over to YouTube. Type a number in the chat now between 0 and 200, and you will get both these. Somebody won already. Are you kidding?
Seriously?
Oh, my God. Yep. Look at this.
Somebody guessed it?
Brian won. That was quick. The number was 63. That's what it was. Brian, you won. Oh, my gosh.
Well,
Is this rigged? Is it fixed?
well, I guess it didn't matter what we picked from, but
That was the fastest giveaway ever.
yeah.
Brian, you're the winner. Text me, man, and I will send those out.
415-952-62 or 3263.
Steve Rosen autograph bookmark. There we go. And don't worry, you guys. I'll be following Steve around the NAMM show, and I'll get him to sign a bunch of stuff. And I'll be giving this,
a bunch of stuff.
I'll be giving that away. Cool, dude. Well, hey, I think we sold a book while we were live tonight. I think MPN, our friend MPN, said he bought a book from your site.
A lot of people said they ordered some.
They did. Oh, okay, good. Right on.
Thank you so much, guys. You'll dig the new book. There's some cool photos in there that weren't in the second edition. I tried to track down some other obscure photos. There's some great stuff in there.
Nice.
And Deputy Van Halen bought one. Thank you so much, dude.
Mark
Right
in
on.
North Carolina bought one.
Holly Lewis, the famous Holly Lewis.
Right on, you guys. Yeah, let us know in the chat. Let us know. Drop a comment below on playback. Okay, what'd you guys think of tonight? Steve, thank you so much, man.
Yes, nice meeting you, Steve. Thank you.
As always, I will see you next week.
Yeah,
We'll
man.
hang out.
It was great.
I'll buy you coffee, and we'll go live. We'll do a live from the NAMM show. Don't hang up just yet.
Get some tea and crumpets.
We'll get tea and crumpets. Thank you so much to our channel members. Thank you for your continued support for this channel and these shows. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. And then coming up Monday, special show Monday. Francis Valentina will be here. Drummer for David Lee Roth. 8 p.m. Eastern. So tune in.
Cool.
Special show Monday.
Very cool.
All right, you guys. Here, I'll play a couple outro videos, and then we'll say goodbye off the air. Thank you guys for watching. Right? Is that? Yeah, that's it. All right. Buy a book.
Leave a review on Amazon.
Yeah, drop a review on Amazon. Links will be down below to that stuff. All right. Don't hang up, Steve. All right. Goodbye, everybody. You guys, Steve Rosen, what do we have here? We got 78 people watching.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Nice. Where are you people? You should have been here. I can't do this by myself.
Right on. Can I get a, this is Steve Rosen, you're watching Johnny Beane TV.
Hey, everybody. This is Steve Rosen. You're watching Johnny Beane TV. Hey.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Right on.
You're able to shoot most of the stuff, Sammy?
I filmed the entire thing.
You do, right?
Yeah.
Hey, guys. NAMM 2023 taking off. Here's Johnny Beane. Watch Johnny Beane TV, the best freaking show on the net, man. I love this guy.
Thank you so much, dude.
You bet.
Thank you. Steve, thank you so much.